Hello, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are so excited that you all are here, and I hope you enjoyed the music in the background. It was pulled together by Aisha, who did an amazing job. So thank you so much for that, Aisha. Thank you to all of you who have joined us today, and thank you so much for those that have put the time and energy into organizing the session for us today. I just wanted to take a few minutes to, one, just welcome you all and talk about the excitement that I have for what the Southern Power Fund is moving in this moment. I think it's just an opportunity for us to open our ears and listen to how movement is working through this fund to protect what's happening out in the field, to resource what is happening, to make sure communities have what they need on the ground to do their work and do their work well. And I am extremely appreciative to all of you that have invested the time and energy to supporting the Southern Power Fund, and are here today to hear what's on the horizon for what we're moving forward. I think what I am most excited about with this fund is that no one here is trying to be grant makers, but what we are trying to do is make sure that the region and those that are on the front lines of this work, movement organizations, are resourced, and that resources are equitably getting to the ground, to the folks that are doing the brunt of the work, and that the relationships that the Southern Power Fund has and its reach across the region, you'll see today how far that has gone and the capacity that has been built based on the resources that have been shared over the last year. So I'm just extremely excited to be here. I'm extremely excited for you to hear what's next on the horizon for the fund, and for you to also witness the work that has gone into making all of this happen, and how folks in the field are responding to what they've received and how they're getting involved and connected. So please just take a moment to get your needs met. Take a moment to just breathe in deep and allow the fullness of what is going to be shared today hit you where it needs to be. At the end, Chantel and I will connect with you, give you a few spaces where we are thinking about action steps after this, and figure out ways that we can connect. So with that being said, I'm going to turn it over to Aisha, who's going to offer some framing and grounding on the flow of the meeting for our time together today.
Thank you so much, Tamika. And thank you for the shout out about that playlist. Music is such an important part of how I move and how I do my work and how we do our work together. It's so good to be with y'all today. My name's Aisha, and I am joining you from New Orleans. This is the land that's been stewarded by many, including the Chitamacha, the Atacapa, wow, saying that again, Caddo, the Choctaw, the Homa, the Natchez, and the Tunica peoples, as well as generations of people of African diaspora who have stewarded and held this land. So I get to come to you from here. I'm the co-director of Southerners on New Ground. We are we are proud and grateful to be one of the movement organizations holding Southern Power Fund. And you'll get to hear from many of us, but actually I just wanted to, if folks, there are a lot of us here, you'll see many of our faces during the presentation, but if folks wanna just give a wave, all of my Southern Power Fund comrades, this is the steering committee, if you see those people waving in the audience. I wanna just get us started with a welcome. Thank you for being in the room. Thank you for the ways you've already supported Southern Power Fund and the way that we hope and expect you feel compelled to, at the end of this conversation, continue that support. As Southerners, our ways tell us that community is essential. And as movement folks, we know that we must build trust together in order to move together. And we want to invite you into some of the practices that we've been using to build that kind of trust in community. And so one of the things
Excuse
that we
me?
do regularly in our weekly meetings is share check-ins to deepen our understanding of each other, to deepen our analysis of who we're doing this work on behalf of. So today, as we invite you into the room, we want to ask you to come into the room. Because we're a big group, we're not going to all go around and say our names like we might if we were smaller. But we want to ask you to, in the chat, share your name, pronouns, where you're coming in from, like where are you located right now on this globe, and share a name of someone who you are, someone just regular in your life or in your orbit, who you do your work on behalf of, who helps you remember why you're here and gives you the why. So we're going to just take a moment to invite everyone to do that and share that in the chat, and we'll have a little bit of music while we do that.
Good afternoon. The interpretation feature has not been turned on, and the interpreter roles haven't been assigned. So I just wanted to let you know that we haven't been interpreting.
Gotcha. Sorry, 1 second. Tech moment. Do we want to? I think we weren't able to get the interpretation together. Is that correct, friends?
Yes, that's correct. I was trying to type a message privately to you all, but yes, the best I can do is make you assign the closed captioning to you.
Okay.
All right. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thanks, Sarah. Can you maybe forward to the next song, and we'll play it for just a few minutes while people come into the room and introduce themselves. Thanks. Yay. Wow, thank y'all. These are beautiful. I'm seeing folks' children, folks' spouses, people who've been incarcerated, parents. So I'm just grateful. Thank you for being here and for bringing those people into the room with you. We are massive together. So thank you all again and welcome. Welcome to the space. We're gonna, over the next little while, we're gonna tell you a little bit about what we've been up to for the past 18 months. Some of the stories, we're gonna lift up some of the things that we've learned, some of the things that we've been able to accomplish and celebrate with you. And we're also going to talk about where we're going next. So we hope and expect that you should expect to be moved, wowed, and compelled to some strategic action by the end of this. I trust all of my amazing comrades to help us frame what we've done. And then we're gonna have some space for questions, and we'll lift some of those questions up at the end, and then have a plan for following up in additional questions. I also wanted to pause for a moment to say that we made this invitation to folks who have funded Southern Power Fund and funder allies that we will hope will join that number. But we also have some movement comrades in the room, and we welcome you being here. We intend to have a briefing that's specifically for movement community in the future, probably early next year. So thank you for being here. We welcome all of us to be in the room together, but we just wanted to acknowledge that this space, we're going to be talking about just the funding part of it. And then we want to talk about strategy with our movement comrades and be accountable in that way too. So thank you everyone for being here. And with that, I want to bring up my incredible and esteemed comrade, Ashley Woodard Henderson, to talk about where we've been.
Thanks, Ish. I appreciate you. And so good to see so many like friendly and comradely faces. Some of you I haven't seen since before COVID. So it's a blessing to be in this sacred space that we're building together. For folks that don't know me yet, my name is Ashley Woodard Henderson. My homies call me Ash. I use she, her pronouns, or any said respectfully and in right relationship. I'm a proud member of the Southern Power Fund family, but my W-2 work is being the first Black woman co-executive director of the Highlander Research and Education Center in Tennessee. Y'all will also learn that I'm a missionary Baptist preacher's daughter. And so when I say hello to you, I expect a hello. It is fantastic to see you. If you hear stuff you like, you can feel free to say amen in the chat. If you hear stuff you don't like, you can say you disagree in the chat. That's all good. There's space for all of your feelings in this space. So I've been deemed the honor of sort of giving some framing about the Southern Power Fund. And if I'm being honest, I think so much of how we've heard folks talk about us, and even sometimes how we've talked about ourselves, has been rooted in centering the challenges in philanthropy, the challenges of white supremacy, the challenges of capitalism. But actually, the Southern Power Fund actually didn't have none to do with funders, and much more to do with the fact that movement folks that had access to funding wanted to make sure that we moved a shit ton of money directly to the people that are most directly impacted by the intersecting crises that we were seeing in the South. That is the truth. It was an effort of love by Southern Freedom Movement for Southern Freedom Movement. That is what we are. That is who we are. And that's what makes us different. But I'm going to spend more time. I'm going to let my comrades talk more about what that then turned into. What I'm going to tell you is a little bit of the things that we saw that made us different from traditional philanthropy. Because y'all know, like we in some ways were responding to the practices that were sometimes screwing up what we were trying to see done in the South, right? We know that much of what we've inherited, you all as funders and us as practitioners, and for those of us that sort of ride the line between the two, that white supremacy culture and how philanthropy can sometimes trap movement organizations inside of like capitalist competition, white supremacist culture kinds of practices was the antithesis of what we wanted to build for ourselves. And so we were working in some ways, one aspect of our work was to make an intervention on how philanthropy can sometimes create more challenges than opportunities in times of great crisis for our grassroots movement organizations. And so that's what we did. We moved money in a way that people not only didn't think was possible, but that sometimes philanthropy told us was not only impossible for us to do, but was impossible for philanthropy to do, right? People said we couldn't move that much money, we couldn't move it that fast, and we did it. Not only did we did it, we kind of exceeded our own expectations in some ways. And I think that the reality is sometimes philanthropy shouldn't be moving money and making the decisions about who gets what. And so we were able to take philanthropy out of the decision-making seat around those things and really center the Southern Freedom Movement in doing it for themselves. And it funded necessary and life-saving work. I want to give some concrete examples of some of the challenges and some of the things that we overcome, right? Like we were able, when folks told us that there was a time where funding anything that wasn't a 501c3 was impossible, we were able to give to organizations that allowed them to continue to be flexible in their structure and their work, right? We were able to really be intentional about supporting authentic grassroots and community-driven work that was Black, Indigenous, like BIPOC led. It was multiracial democracy building work that didn't always fit cleanly into what was shiny and popular. And you know, the funder darlings of the work, right? We were able to give to the roughest, toughest folks that were doing some of the most radical work in the South to save lives. And you know, we also didn't do it in a way that like bred them having to tell us things, stretch the truth or posture with us to be able to get the money, right? We gave the money with no strings. So much so that people didn't believe that it was real. Like we had to spend a significant, Sarah will probably laugh at this, many of us, is how many calls we had to make, how many texts we had to send to tell the comrades, like, no, this isn't spam. You really can get this money. And we can trust that you're going to do the right thing with it because we're already working with you. We know your work. You don't have to prove nothing to us because we're already in it with you. And so we didn't incentivize a culture of them having to jump through hoops to get it or to prove that they were worthy of it in ways that forced them to not be honest about the conditions that they were working in. And we didn't, you know, Oppression Olympics it either. We gave to all the states in the South. We gave a cross identity. We gave a cross issue area. And so we did that. We prioritized power building over Oppression Olympics. And we didn't favor like, you know, any particular frontline, any particular community. We wanted to fund Southerners in this new American Southern identity that was radical and was doing life-saving work across our issues and geographies. Because what we know is that all of these issues disproportionately impact all Southern people, that all of the front lines are here. And for us to pick and choose would have been actually the antithesis of the power building Southern freedom movement that we're building in a 21st century context. So just some other rationale for the Southern Power Fund as an intervention to interrupt some of these practices, right? is that this was, and I talked about this, I hinted at this a little earlier, right? It's like, this didn't come out of nowhere. This infrastructure of relationship had been built between the organizations, not only that are a part of the steering committee, but also many of the organizations that we were funding. That these relationships, this infrastructure has been being built for literally decades, if not centuries, right? So the ability of us, those of us that had been trying to navigate the many different kind of like just traumatic experiences of being in relationship with philanthropy, what we also knew is that we had people on the inside that were really doing everything in their power to move that money in solidarity with us in a way that centered movement builders. And so, yeah, we decided we were going to do the work together, that we were stronger together, that we needed each other in that moment to be able to move the kind of resources that our people deserved. Did we get to the biggest numbers that is actually the definition of our worthiness? No, we can't do that under capitalism, but we got more money than people thought was going to be possible for a ragtag group of Southerners, and I'm proud of that work. So again, sort of thinking about the what we inherited to what we're shifting to, right? Is instead of thinking just about philanthropic grant making, we're talking about movement distribution. What does it look like when the dollars are in the hands of the people most directly impacted, so that movement is leading and making sure that all of movement is resourced, especially considering that only 4% of philanthropic dollars come to the South? What does it look like when funders then are not making all of the decisions about where that 4% goes? And how do we get real about what equity looks like but beyond that 4%, right? We're moving from justification to shared accountability. Again, we weren't telling people that they had to make their work fit into a certain box to get access to these resources. All they had to do was to keep on doing the radical revolutionary work to build a South where we all can be free. And we knew that we could trust them with these resources because it was people we were already embedded in organizing and power building work with. You know, this piece around rapid response and intervention, and many of you have heard me talk about this before, is that we sometimes pendulum swing from saying we need to do like long-term generational investments to being like, oh, the crises are live right now, we need to be able to do rapid response. Southern Power Fund was like, we need to be doing both. We need to be funding folks before, during, and after all sorts of man-made disasters, whether that's climate or white supremacist violence or economic violence that is state sanctioned, et cetera, to make sure that our people have what they need before the crisis to set themselves up for success and being able to mitigate the harm, to be able to actually move resources in the moment, to be able to make sure people's needs are met in the absence of a state that is taking care of them, and to make sure that at the end of the day, they also have the resources to continue to do their campaign work, their base building, their direct action, their policy work, et cetera, and to be able to be on the uptick of being prepared for the next intersecting wave of crises. And so we're moving from just our obsession about rapid response to what will we be doing to get 1,000 miles ahead of the harm in the first place, right? And then last but certainly not least, you know, we're not just going to be screaming and yelling and mad at philanthropy about these things anymore. We move from ask to demands. Y'all might remember a very angry Ashley Woodard Henderson saying, "Give us all your money and get out of the way," in our first funder briefing. But where we are now is like, all right, we got some folks like Grant Makers for Southern Progress, like Chantel, like our comrades in Solidaire, and so many of you that are on this line right now that have literally said, we want to be down and we want to move our peers who are not as ready to move into this different way of being in beyond transactional relationships with each other and being in transformative relationships with each other. We want to be down and we want to do that in a way that is catalytic, as Highlander would say. And so I think that the point is like, we're moving, y'all might see ask and invitation and be like, that's synonymous. That means the same thing. And invitation is an ask. It's true, but it's the tonality, I think, that we are shifting, right? We're not just making a demand of you and we're not begging you for a damn thing. What we are doing is saying that you have an opportunity to join this sort of movement building as a person that is both thinking about moving dollars, but also being a practitioner of organizing your peers to this way of working. And so we are inviting you to sort of decolonize your own practices and be in this movement work and building with us. With that, I'm going to toss it to my colleagues to take us through the next phase of our work. I'm going to toss it to Valencia Gunder and my buddy Jorge. Y'all give it up to them as they come.
Thank you. Thank you, Ash. It's always great to hear you speak with such clarity and commitment of the work. It truly keeps me going, so I appreciate that. My name is Jorge Diaz, and I am the co-director of Agitarte, which is cultural solidarity and mutual aid movement organization of artists and cultural workers based in Santurce, Puerto Rico. And I am here in the Southern Power Fund thanks actually to the deep relationships built with organizations like Southerners on New Ground over the years. Like about 7 years ago, we were having a political discussion about the US South, about the global South, the Caribbean, with comrades from Southerners on New Ground. And we share how like we're a colony, an invaded nation of the US since 1898. As the documents say, we belong to, but we're not a part of. But we're also the southernmost border of the United States and share very similar economic and political reality with southern states, and are at the front lines of the climate crisis and disaster capitalism. And this rang true with folks, and especially our comrade Mary Hooks, who called us to join this formation, which is a unique and important step the Southern Power Fund made, what I would call an anti-imperialist decision to broaden the division, to broaden the division of the South and embrace a global South perspective for resourcing the work. Right? And honestly, we were very surprised to be invited to the steering committee because we know from almost 25 years of experience that philanthropy rarely prioritizes or even considers Puerto Rico and other colonies of the US. And that because of that same lack of resources and colonial situation, most of the funding that arrives doesn't necessarily get to the frontline organizations of the people doing the work without support or recognition. And that was makes this project so important for our people and for us. So here we are 18 months later, and I'm very excited to share what we've been able to accomplish since November of 2020. We moved $10 million to groups funded in the 300 groups along the United States and Puerto Rico, and even a group in St. Croix as we try to expand as well to other colonies. And that work definitely was instrumental for a lot of groups underground here that never receive any funding, and specifically when usually foundations ask for so much information for a $2,500, $5,000, $10,000 grant. So we're very happy and to be able to do this. And actually, definitely, as Ash very well said, it exceeded my expectations definitely of what we could do. We know we could do it, but I didn't know we could do it to this level, and we did. And now we're at this stage, and I'm happy to pass it on to Valencia to speak a little bit more about how we do this. And yeah, what's up, Valencia? Hi.
Hey, Jorge, what's up? Hey, y'all, this is Valencia Gunder. Most folks just call me V, she, her. And I serve as one of the steering committee members through the Smile Trust, which is my organization I'm the co-director of. And we do food insecurity work, mutual aid and disaster relief and resiliency work throughout the South and the global South. And I'm so excited to be here to share some of our updates and also some amazing examples of the impact of this work. Can we go to the next slide? There we go. So we have two tracks, y'all. It's two ways people can receive resources down to the ground. One is through our redistribution process. So since November 2020, the Southern Power Fund has moved 2 distribution cycles of $4 million each for a total of $8 million to over 300 organizations. So what that looks like is these grants may be just a little bit larger. These grants are touching organizations all across the South, the global South. And we do these in a time frame where they're set for us to process in a way that is sustainable and also help build capacity. Now, we know the world is not always perfect. The world ain't never perfect, actually, especially for Southerners. And we have shocks, right? So, you know, we have stressors that hit our communities all the time. People think that people are dealing with, right? And then you have a shock, right? And then we decided that we would do rapid response. So a shock looked like when the winter storm hit the 4 southern states, the Gulf states, in the South in 2021. That was the first time we ever seen anything like that. And guess what? The grassroots organizations, the ground, they moved, right? They didn't wait for the Red Cross. They didn't wait for FEMA. These folks got up and they started serving their own communities. Now all they needed was some resources to help them, and they did get it. Shout out to the Southern Power Fund. We decided to respond. And we moved over $1.3 million within 4 days to groups and organizations on the ground. we were able to meet some of the most amazing organizations in the Gulf South states, folks who I never even heard of, and I just was so excited to learn about them doing this work. And then also, we also did work to respond to Hurricane Ida, Tropical Storm Fred, and also the Southern Power Fund has assisted the Smile Trust very directly with getting resources to other nations like Haiti after the earthquake. So the impact is great. And it's a lot of people who receive resources, and the response that we get is amazing. And bigger than just the amount of money we've been able to move in the timeline we've been able to do it, but the fact of the response of the impact has been amazing. Next slide. And I wanted to pause there if we could, Jorge, see if you down with it. Maybe we could share some examples of some of the impact. What you think?
Sure, definitely. Yeah. I mean, I know it's incredible because I know groups that, I know a group of queer folks that are now organizing a housing co-op so they can have a place to live, and have from a co-op. I know folks that bought a building, an arts community center in Mayagüez, which is, and for folks can never buy, property. I know folks who are doing frontline work against the stuff that's happening in Puerto Rico, and even front-ending money to folks so to get ready for the hurricane so people can get up their systems going, because we have a network of mutual aid centers. And those are just some. I mean, I know this other young organization who hired their first 3 organizers with 40 grand, and that leveraged a lot of other funding. So I mean, I have many examples. For us, it's incredible to be able to move $880,000 by and to community organizations, people who don't have 501c3s. And in Puerto Rico, you also have to have a separate nonprofit status here as well. So just really, like I said, I know you don't have many examples too, but just really, it's been amazing what we've been able to do in such a little amount of time. I never thought it, and folks here are definitely very grateful, and it's leverage other monies, which I think is also important.
Absolutely. Some of the examples that I think about, just one, if y'all could just imagine for a second, imagine being on the ground in your local city or in your community or town, and you've been just doing work, you've been helping your community. You never even got a grant before. It's just been off the muscle. You make a little extra money, the community patch together, they do the thing. And then somebody hits you with like, we see you. And people like, is this real? Is this real? Like, we got so many of those things to the point that we had to make phone calls to tell people this is a real thing. We are serious about giving you the support. And the response is, hey, we could run our program for a whole nother year. Getting $40,000 down to the ground, or $25,000, or whatever amount of money down to the ground, with rapid response or redistribution, people whole capacity is refilled. And that's a real thing that we've seen. For example, here in South Florida, we supported an organization that does food insecurity work. And immediately they were like, yeah, we probably can pay ourselves a stipend now. And I was like, yes, you can. That's what we need you to do. And they are able to do the work in a bigger way, because now they can focus in because they have the capacity to help cover themselves financially. And I think through some amazing organizations that were in the Gulf South during the snowstorm, right? Organizations, I didn't want to drop a name, but I just led this organization. I'm actually trying to figure out how to become a member, but Popsicles and Pickles in Mississippi. These amazing women just do some amazing organizing work. And when they received the resources from the Southern Power Fund, they were just so excited. And they were able to do what they already do, but on a larger scale, and it was able to get resources to the community. And we saw that with over 30 plus organizations from the impacted area during the snowstorm, right? 30 plus organizations stood up across these impacted areas, and they responded to over 50,000 households, and they all received support from our ecosystem, the Southern Power Fund. And I'm so excited to just be a part of that, and just to see that people have answers. People know resiliency. People know how to respond to themselves. People have solutions, but just oftentimes we do not usually get the resources down to the right people. But we've been getting it right. We've been getting it right, and I'm so excited to be a part of the Southern Power Fund. And I'm looking at this slide, and we operate off trust. y'all, believe it or not, I have probably not met everybody on this Zoom in person before, but it's so much trust. And also, I love the fact that like the communities are building trust with us. They are taking the resources and they are actually pouring it into our communities. And it's been a trustful relationship, not just from the organizations to the Southern Power Fund, but also the Southern Power Fund trusting grassroots organizations to move their solutions and their work without us having to micromanage or manage them at all. Who are we? They know what they're doing. They've been doing it. They've been holding the South down for a long time. We just want to be here to assist them with it. And I want to pass it to Jorge to talk about like the collective work that we do together.
Yeah, so we have representatives from different organizations, collectively working. We have the anchor organizations, and we also have the other groups like Smile Trust and ourselves, Agicate, which are smaller organizations who compose representatives of the 10 movement organizations, which include the 4 anchors. And we have weekly meetings, and we come together to make the various decisions and to build that, like you said, trust. Because I think there's initially a trust when you come to a table as people who know each other, organizations respect. But also I think there's a build trust, which comes from the deep work that we've done to like really look critically at how we allocate resources, where do we allocate it, which areas of the South are we missing, to try to be more proactive in the future. So I think all of that is part of the kind of culture we've developed at SSPS, so the Southern Power Fund. And I also want to mention that, being here, like you always imagine that this can be done in philanthropy, that this can be a shift. But being here and having this experience, I allowed to be more clear, to be more clear in conversations with philanthropy about what we are willing and we're not willing to do, right? And also to have a very much more now a donor organizer perspective, as opposed to like, we need you, please give us the money, more like, like as very well as there's an invitation to be part of the work that's happening. So it's a shift also in perspective and the way philanthropy should look at itself and what the beginnings of a real effort of wealth redistribution can look like. I don't know if that's enough, Valencia, all the structure and stuff. I don't know.
I think it's one more slide though.
Oh, there's one more slide.
One more slide. Let's get to the next slide. So y'all, this is a map. And the South did that. We did that. Not just the Southern Power Fund, the South did that. The South did that. That's how much work has been moved. The organizations that we've been able to reach, the organizations that's been standing up, holding down the South for all these years without resources, most of them, and they've now getting resources. So the ask, like Ash was saying and Jorge is saying, we're trying to shift the narrative. These amazing people, these organizations, they deserve to be seen. They deserve to have resources, right? And honestly, y'all, if we like it or not, we know to flip the country, we got to shift the South. We have to shift the South. Ash always says, wherever the South goes, is that it, Ash? Where the South goes?
As goes the South, so goes the nation is a fact.
That's right. So this map, y'all, the South did that. The South did that, and the Southern Power Fund supported the South to do this, right? We want to make sure people know that the South did that. The organizations on the ground that talk to our people every day, that service our people every day, that comes out of their homes and face adversarial situations. They take on shocks. These folks, they don't have electricity during these disasters, but they get up and they move every single time. And when they get up and move, the Southern Power Fund gonna move too. And we hope that y'all gonna move with the Southern Power Fund into this next phase. Thank y'all.
Oh, thank you, V and Jorge. Yes, repping the deep South for us. I mean, I feel like New Orleans is the deep South, and then we got global South deep, right? And so we were going to go from here over to talking about where we're going next, but just pausing for a moment to say, like, that's what we did. That's what we just did, and it's amazing. So I think we're next up is Steph G, who's going to talk about where we're going now.
Yeah. So y'all think we're going to stop there? That is not how Southern Movement works. We are going to keep it moving, and we're going to be bold. So that slide is bold. And my name is Stephanie Gilliu. I'm one of the co-directors with Project South. And y'all know we look to history to craft the future, and the future is bold. But let's think about this in terms of Southern movement. The Montgomery bus boycott, that was bold. The persistence of young people desegregating schools, that was bold. The radical imagination to design our own governance and infrastructure after Katrina, while the established structures faltered and failed over and over again, that's bold. And so this invitation to understand 100 million over the next few years is as necessary and winnable goal. The Southern movement is bold and we are ready. Our institutions are decades strong. Our ability to move quickly has been tested in trials, fires, and floods. And not surprisingly, last year, as everybody has been saying, when this pandemic crisis hit, we decided to develop a plan to get these resources where they needed. And that is an answer to a question we've been having for a long time. And so we've been looking to our relationships, the foundation of our infrastructure, and that has been the guide and compass of this project. And that's important to say. This is not a fund in the traditional sense. This is a political project, and it's to redistribute resources with a clear purpose, to grow the power of social movements on every front line in the South. And so y'all been hearing it from everybody. We trust our people, we trust our organizations, our tried and true tactics, and our evolving methods for organizing to exercise power. And foundational to Southern methodology is that we believe we need all of us, all the groups, all the work, not just one place, not just one type of crisis, not just one or two organizations. We believe in all of us, and that's why we need the resources to match the boldness of our movements. So last year we moved fast. We moved fast while our folks were reeling from COVID. We moved fast when the money was moving fast. And we moved fast during times of crisis that didn't even make it to the news cycle. Some of the winter storm stuff that Via is talking about, nobody even knew what was happening in Mississippi. And we were moving money before it even hit. And we paused this year to strategize about what is our long haul approach. So what's the plan? We have 3 strategies to shape our next few years: intervene, fortify, and grow. So intervene. Ash talked about the shift from rapid response one-time drops to growing our movement's overall capacity to prepare for, respond to, and recover stronger from any singular crisis. So in this strategy, we are committed to move $5 to $6 million a year, no strings attached, general funds to 150 groups in 3 seasonal distributions to get ahead of crises, to prepare for them, and to recover from them better, transformative. And just to be clear, when we say intervention, we mean creating the conditions to determine the course of history instead of responding to the conditions of historical oppression. That's our first strategy. Our second strategy is fortify. We already have incredible movement formations that have been building power from the ground up for years. This strategy guarantees that those existing formations continue to grow and deepen, whether we're talking about the Southern Movement Assembly going into 10 years, the Gulf South for a Green New Deal infrastructure across 5 states, to locally governed community-controlled funds that need to be loaded up and activated. This strategy will concentrate resources each year to those formations that already have governance and resource distribution processes in place, but don't have as much resource to move. That's fortify. And then grow. Southern movements have always sparked new ideas, big experiments, and old school brick buildings. Jorge's talking about buying buildings. That's holding power. Buying land, that's a way to move and grow something that's going to sustain us. This strategy will provide specific seed resources to long-term investment projects like land purchases, community land trusts, housing, infrastructure development that increase our movement's autonomy and people's safety and sustainability through these next few years. So we believe that Southern movements deserve to grow, deepen, and expand. And the Southern Power Fund is just one way to support those broader movement efforts. And we want that to sink in. Our organizations and all these formations are critical, and we're not asking you to support either or. We're inviting you and your folks to find creative ways to contribute to all of this. The specific front lines, the place-based, yes, the emergencies, absolutely, and the movement vehicles that work across all those realities. It's an and, it's an and thing. The Southern Power Fund is a collective vehicle, and so we're going to build on it. We're going to build on the success that we've had over a very few 18 months. We're going to build on the success and relationships and trust that we've been building for 20 plus years. And we're going to move these resources and grow our own capacity while we do it. This vehicle can move at a particular scale, and it's just one part of Southern movement infrastructure. So we've created this way to receive and move large dollars. And we are committed to working with you all over the next few years to make that happen. So the invitation, to be specific, is to work with us in all the ways. 3, please continue to grant to Southern organizations across the board. The folks that you believe in, the folks that you're hearing about, everybody. Please move and access additional dollars to grow this project. And ask us questions that help you make the argument to your boards and folks who are maybe a little hesitant to be as bold as the South. We'll help you get to the folks that need to find ways to trust movement more. And we hope that our experience and what we've been able to do over this time is going to help show that. You can trust us. You can move with us. We're going to keep growing, and we're going to keep doing it in this way that builds power, that builds our people, that expands the possibilities and deepens our collective process and collective possibilities for full and transformative liberation. So I'm excited to let's put that 100 million slide back up on there. Those are our 3 strategies. But that 100 million is a bold goal that's not just shooting at the moon, it's necessary. This is what it's going to take to build the ground in ways that we can then continue to build ourselves as we move forward in very uncertain and challenging times. So I'll stop there and see if there are questions, see if there are ways that we can help you all make this invitation to your folks, to your family funds, to the people in your networks, to the foundations, to the boards, to the folks that you know are sitting on something that you know have an inkling about the South, but haven't found a way to get it there. This is an opportunity. This is the invitation to partner. And we are hopefully excited to move forward with you all over these next 5 years.
Yes, thank you, Steph. Wow. I'm in the meetings every week and have heard this before, and I'm still really moved and excited. And I have chills, and I saw that in the chat. We see y'all, we did the work, we heard about the work that was done. We remember that this is a political project, and there's an invitation to deepen the possibilities, to expand it. So we're going to take a moment now to see Sarah and Ada are here. They've been monitoring the chat to see if there are questions. So we just wanted to open it up and ask you to drop any questions that you have in the chat, and we'll see if we can answer some of them here live. And those that we can't, we'll keep on clarifying and finding ways to get back with you. So what y'all got? No questions, just amens.
There have been no questions in the chat so far. It is only praise and amens and thank yous. So yeah, we do want to invite people to put some stuff in the chat, and Sarah and I can monitor it. So if you're coming in now. Is the Southern Power Fund primarily looking at projects from existing organizations, or intentionally making bold investments in new organizers and infrastructure? Sarah has been playing a staffing role here in the last few months. You want to answer that one, Sarah?
Yeah, sure. I think that something really incredible about the way that the steering committee moves and identifies folks that are funded is that there isn't just a focus on people that have 501c3 status or any sort of legitimacy in a government way. I think that the fantastic thing about it is that the steering committee has been working for generations across the South to recognize folks that are really doing incredible movement work. And so I think the investments are really intentional in the way that it kind of runs the gamut. There are folks that have been doing it for a really long time. And then there's also folks that's like, the steering committee member would be saying, you know, I heard about this incredible project, check it out. Would they be great for funding? And I think that that trust is really what buttresses that conversation. And yeah, I think that the steering committee funds all kinds of folks.
Yeah, definitely.
And then this question that kind of both go with each other, but are there ways to learn more about the orgs the money went to, or is there a list specifically of Puerto Rican organizations supported by the Southern Power Fund? I can take a little bit of a stab and then check in and just say, you know, right now we don't have a public list. The Southern Power Fund doesn't have a public list of folks that money has been moved to. However, we're hoping in 2022 to kind of do some more spotlighting of organizations. You know, some groups for a variety of reasons maybe don't want a lot of attention. Some would love to have more attention. And so we've been in some processes to talk to groups that we've been in partnership about what's the best way to really amplify their work if they want that, and really help tell the story of what's happening versus just a kind of list of grantees, because we don't see it as that. It's not grantees. These are partners in a larger Southern strategy. I want to see, Aisha, if you have any other thoughts on that. But
yeah, I mean, I think some of that is about, like, again, this is a political project. So in some way we're funding, this is part of the answer to the other question too. We're funding things that, yeah, are established in public and maybe hang out their shingle. And then we're also able to move resources to things that are underground railroad. Like we're not giving out the map to everybody of all of the, you know, projects that are working and doing the mycelial deep underground work. Like we are being strategic about that. So it's like, I think the question is often meant to be like, oh, we want to know so we can lift up higher. And we want that too. And we want to be thoughtful about it. And we want to be like intentional. And we also don't want to claim the work of others. And that's been a part of our active conversation, because we as movement leaders have been in that, where we are like, now our work becomes claimed in some kind of like gross capitalist way. We're saying like, actually, we see y'all, we want to give you resources. There are not strings attached. You don't need to do a dance after the fact or give us a grant report. We know that the work is great and you're doing it, and we value that. And now we do have the question of, how does Southern Power Fund then tell the story of the stories of what has happened in a way that is honorable, that honors that work, that, you know, doesn't co-opt it, that doesn't play into those games, but says this is the truth of the powerful work that's happening, so that we can name it and claim it and model it elsewhere. So that's our movement work at this time.
I had a question messaged to me about just, is it still the main anchor orgs to give to? Is there a new structure now? Kind of what, if folks are ready and excited to be a part of this 100 million, how do we get the money to the Southern Power Fund?
Well, the basic way is we continue to have the infrastructure set up so that the 4 anchor organizations are willing to receive the funds in and hold them and move them out. So we're continuing to do that. So you can go to our website, follow the instructions in there to move money directly into the Southern Power Fund's process. And then, sorry, I was reading a chat question and then lost track of the other part of it.
The question was just how to get money to the Southern Power Fund. So you were saying the 4 anchors are the way: Song, Highlander, Project South, and Alternate Routes. Those are the groups that are still the places to donate to, and will be holding money for the Southern Power Fund.
Exactly. And somebody, thank you, Sarah, put that website into the, so reach out to us individually, reach out to Sarah, and we will figure out how to receive your dollars. And then someone asked this question about inviting others into the call, into that number. Yes, I think is our answer. We want to invite. Now, one of the things that we have done and said and held a line around is that this is about resources moving without a lot of strings attached. So we have been in discernment sometimes when funders have come and said, we'd like to give some money and it's going to mean a 100-page grant report. We want to know everything about what the grantee, like all of that. And we've said, like, you know, that's not where we're coming from. That's not how we're working. So that's not the right fit. So it is important that folks understand that this is trying to move differently than how philanthropy has historically moved. So as you're inviting folks in, like also doing that political education with them. And actually, we're going to call up our funder huddle. Chantel and Tamika are really excellent at helping kind of work that translation and say, like, let's talk about how we can move inside your philanthropic organizations to really help them be politically aware and move in the ways that we need to in order to make this happen. So awesome. So I'm gonna, Chantel, you wanna add some things and translate for us?
Sure. Hi, everybody. Chantel with Funders for LGBTQ issues. As Aisha mentioned, we have something we call the Funder Cuddle Huddle. Some of us have different relationships to that concept, but basically, you know, Tamika and I have both been working with funders in the many, many years of past to help organize funders in the direction of moving money better to the South. And I think, you know, there's work that movement organizations need to do to coordinate self and like build collaborative and solidarity amongst each other. And there's work that those of us in the funder orbits can do to move money well in relation to, in response to what movement is asking us to do. And so, yes, this is part of this conversation as we do some of the funder organizing, along with the Solidaire Network and Resource Generation, who are more individual donors folk, and just really appreciate all of you who've been in this work with us for many years and continue to be. And so our work moving forward is going to be, we're reaching out to you after this. What we've done so far has been helping folk working in institutions who want to be able to move money better, who are struggling to figure out how they can do it in a way that meets, you know, the moment. And so just helping folks move in this way that is moving money faster, better, more money with fewer strings attached. And I think really kind of reiterating the point that, you know, this isn't the answer to all the questions and all the problems of the South. The Southern Power Fund is a political project where we're learning a lot about putting into practice around moving money well in a way that aligns with values. There's a lot of sort of like hashtag or some conversation, whether it's reparations or social justice philanthropy. And we know the honest truth is that philanthropy can really screw up movement work. And so we've also built a lot of practices that practice a different way and do work in a way that sees folks, that builds the kinds of organizations that we need versus makes organizations do things that, you know, aren't helpful to them. And we've seen this over and over again. So for me, with the Out in the South initiative, working closely with grant makers for Southern Progress, and really appreciate Tamika's leadership on this, just really learned a lot and just invite you into this conversation. And we'll be doing a lot of follow-up again, and appreciate, you know, Ada at Solidaire and Janice before her, and the staff at Resource Generation who are organizing their donors. So it's all of us on the ship here, and we'll be reaching out to figure out how you can give, you know, more and better and organize your peers around this. And again, with the message being, it's a both and. You know, we continue to move money to the South, and we look at how we can really resource Southern Power Fund. So, and I know Tamika has more to say about how this fits into GSP's work, and just give her the spotlight here right now. So, hey, Tamika.
Thanks, Chantel. Again, we are here to work with you all. GSP is pushing its members. It's talking with our members about what it means to fund in this way. We know that this is a new learning. We know that this is new to many of you all in philanthropy, and we're here to help you have those conversations. Chantel and I have met with funders individually and collectively to talk about what this means and how you all can make the shift and really support the funds that are being raised and organized, and how you all can also connect with other funders that are interested and not quite sure how to make the connection. And so we are here at Grant Makers for Southern Progress are creating the space and the opportunity to do that donor education, to sit with you, to have conversations with you about how to infuse the resources that you all have into this movement, so that those that understand what to do and how to do have the resources to then move it to movement so that they can get the jobs done. I know that after this call, there may be a lot of questions, a lot of concerns. Please feel free to reach out to Chantel and I. There's also another sort of like, we call ourselves the Funder Huddle Cuddle. So there's a group of us that have been in this since the very beginning, that we've literally reached out to folks that we've had connections with. We've done the funder organizing where we reached out and said, listen, we know that you all are, your values are aligned. We know that you all are investing in movement and investing in movement infrastructure in the South. Come and join us. And so if there's a space where you want to be a part of that, we are open to having that conversation with you about how to join us and be a part of that donor organizing, funder organizing space. This is really an opportunity for us to step up and be in space and be in line to be able to move in the way that movement need us to move, and not to put the emphasis on us. This is not about us. This doesn't need to be about us. This needs to be about us fueling and moving the resources that we have to spaces, to the people that understand what's happening on the ground and how to move it. This is our time to be true organizers, and to use your sphere of influence to push your institutions around why they should be supporting and moving resources in this way. And so again, I thank you for your time, and I thank you for your energy. I thank you for the energy that you've put into the chat. You all are clear that this is something that you want to be a part of, something that you support, something that you value. And so if that is true, then you can join us as allies to spread the word so that we can effectively raise this $100 million and go beyond that. Please understand that $100 million is not going to fix everything, but it's a good start. It is a goal, and we can absolutely exceed that goal if we all work together to get it done. And so with that, I will spotlight Aisha again to sort of take us to the next. But again, Chantel and I are here. We will be reaching out to some of you. So all those amens and snaps and all that in the chat, we're going to be calling you. So we're going to call you on your stuff. So just expect that. Expect us to reach out to you and to bring you in the fold and to see how you want to be involved and committed to the work that the Southern Power Fund is moving forward.
Thank you so much. Thank you both, Chantel and Tamika, part of our family. I'm just sitting with, as Octavia told us, belief initiates action or does nothing at all. And so like Tamika said, you've heard what we did. We see y'all. We're moving resources to the South. You've heard why it matters. This is a political project. And you've heard the stories and the impact. And you've also heard our call that we're saying $100 million over the next 5 years. So those are the pieces, just the highlights, the headlines. I used to be a journalist, so those are the headlines, the pull quotes. And so we just want to leave you with that remembrance and understanding. This, we recorded this, so you can share it, watch it. I think we'll be sharing with folks who couldn't be here with us today. And the takeaway is to like dig deep and keep moving those resources. Remember, as goes the South, so goes the nation. We've known that, we know it continues to be true. And we have work to do, y'all. We have work to do, and let's get to it and let's do that work. We can support you figuring out how to get those resources here, and then movement. Like we said, this is about movement supporting itself. Southern movement, knowing what we need and choosing and reallocating resources to ourselves that are the resources that were extracted and have been and continue to be extracted from our people. We're saying that needs to be returned to tend the soil, to build what's next, to do what Nina is calling in, and that there's a new world coming. What are we building to support that? This is an opportunity to be part of that build. So thank y'all so much for being with us. I'm weirdly just looking at myself, so I'm gonna just make the gallery view happen. Okay, so I can see some friendly faces. So yeah, $100 million, y'all. We're ready. Thank you. And I like to hear noise. Come on off mute, y'all. Say some hellos, say goodbyes, so thank you.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks, y'all.
Thanks,
Sandra Mel.
All right, thank you. Be well.
Yes.
Bye.
Bye. Have a great afternoon.
Thanks, everybody. Great to see
Thanks
all
for
of you.
being here.
Appreciate
Thank you.
everyone.
We could play some music, play us out, maybe.
Yeah.
Great job, team. Way to go.
Yay.